Hello, 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 and hello. How's everybody doing? I hope we're all having a great day. This is 50 Pips rocking and rolling, 1909, 2014. Not making any trade calls or recommendations because only you're responsible for the trades you may decide to take. The fact that you're here means you're ready to understand to accept all their disclaimers here on the website and everywhere else. Understanding that we're just performing some live technical analysis in a learning context for educational purposes only. As usual, sessions are recorded. You'll get an email of the recording as soon as it's over, as long as you use it for your own personal use only. Nobody will be blocked. Nobody will be banned. We'll all behave as one big happy family. So how's it going, guys? Okay, good stuff, good stuff. Impromptu session today. We're going to try and go through some of the most interesting charts just to wrap up the week. As usual, we don't have a session on this Friday, but as I promised, we do a little update since we had the UK vote. Here we are, here we are, here we are. Well, it might go a bit quickly, but nonetheless, let's get rocking and rolling. So what's going on today? What's the story today? Well, really, the only story today was need to sell GPB, right? Need to sell cable. Now, as we're coming in, what we said yesterday was all going to be about the focus or what was happening around the, when we had the release, London time, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., right? And basically what happened is effectively, we had cable rotating back up, right? And what we said is we're looking for this to stay in range, and we said that basically this move here, it was all about this base, and that technically the chart was very, very bullish, right? And we were expecting for this to continue to rotate back higher, and then we'd have to have a wait and see into that 6500, that key level, right? So basically, what's happening is, we come into here, so let's walk this through. So we're coming in, we know the 6500 is the key level to keep an eye out for, right? We're coming in and on the Scottish referendum, and we know that if we get a yes, then the stuff is going to look pretty hairy, right? We're going to get a lot of moving and dealing, wheeling and dealing. If not, this is probably just going to be a case of buy the rumor, sell the fact, right? So basically, market gaps down on rumors that the vote is going to be yes. We find a base, we start to rotate back up into this breakdown point, and what happens? Once we get the vote and it's a no, well, is anybody surprised that price is right back into the level we were before we gap down? Absolutely not. It's a very pure rotation. Now the fight is on is, are the bulls going to be able to manage this upside rotation, right? You've got this move from lows to highs with a 50 back coming in here. So as long as we hold here, there's a chance of this to move higher. But if we start moving lower, this will likely start to be trade very, very heavy, right? So the line in the sand most likely is a bit further down. And, if the bulls can hold this, then we'll see a move right back to try and take a stab at those 6500. Or if we break below, then we could see some more weakness, right? How to trade this, how to deal this? Well, we kind of touched upon this yesterday. When you're coming into the office in the morning session, as we said, early start, what happens? You see that we've blown through the 6500 before the final vote, and then we can't hold there, right? Now, you can look on pretty much any chart across the board, right? If you were looking at GPB, AUD, bam, you see what happened right at the time when the vote came out. We started to get signs of exhaustion at highs, right? GPB AUD. Let's look at GPB CAD. Bam, GPB CAD. Little exhaustion here at highs. Let's look at GPB CHF. Bam. Takes out previous highs, then can't hold it, right? So we had this little press right back through the event, and then it's really a non-event, and everything starts to rotate back down. So really, the only trade was really to play for the shorts, for the move back down on cable, and that's pretty much done and dusted. Now we'll have to see if it gets some Momo or not for the rest of the day. Okay, so let's go through that. I just want to update you guys on that. Let's go through the charts just quickly to see where we stand and what's going on. So NZD USD, what we talked about, our assumption was that as long as this low here held, we'd expect this to try and rotate higher, possibly all the way back into 82.50s, and basically we've been spending the week trying to scalp longs off this point, trying to get 10-15 pips and then hold partial for a rotation back higher, and that's pretty much in play. Keep in mind on the bigger picture, very important point, right? Very important support, and for now it's holding. Now it doesn't mean it has to pop up to a gazillion, but even it would be healthy to see a rotation into those 82.50s, maybe even higher. Even if that's going to be the sell point for the next leg down, it doesn't matter. But right now, technically, what's happening is we're getting a healthy little attempt to move back up. Shorts booking some profits into the end of the week, so quite nice. We really can't complain there. Crude, what we said is there's not a lot to do. A lot of buyers will be trying to buy this. It's a really key level. If this holds, we'd see it. We expect to see a move back into the 99th, 100. But I'm really not that interested in trading crude, as we discussed. It's at a key zone. Whether we close above or below those moving averages on the weekly is really going to be key. But at the moment, it's all about wheeling and dealing into these lows. I'm not too interested in trading this. I'm just patiently sitting and watching. What's going on AUD and on Aussie? Well, we scalped these to the upside. Remember, we got the TP1s done, then we tried to hold aggressively and we couldn't get any more traction, got taken out on those. Then we discussed the fact that you could try and get long aggressively to get a move back into those 90s. Lower odds setup, but clearly the market unable to attract new sellers below those lows. So those 90s are attracting. Now, what I would say is that if you look at it on a 4-hour or even on the daily, basically, as we discussed, these 90s are really key. So I would, if we get some traction to the upside and we start to find some bids above the 90, I would not be surprised to see this moving back into the 91.60s, but then I would expect sellers to come in back there. At the moment, the support for the week is going to be further down, but right now it looks like it's going to try and take another stab higher. We'll look at this early next week and see how we'll position ourselves and how we decide to play this. Euro yen holding there. Again, I would expect to see a little move back into the 39.20s. Again, keep in mind we got G20 meetings over the weekend, so yen could start to get funny and we could set some moves. I don't think there's a lot of edge unless you're tactically trying to trade, take some to the downside, even though it's not a preferred trade of mine. Not a lot to say on this chart. Euro USD, what did we say? So basically, we discussed the fact that the only trades we had was to get long into those lows for a move back in 29.10s, 29.19s, just flat up, and then short, if anything, either flat for the week or short for a move back down because this was holding heavy. So that's done and dusted. If you're in those shorts, I'd book 50% or more of the position and just see if you get a roll for the end of the week. If not, that's pretty much done and dusted. What do we talk about on ES? Again, no surprise what we said. This was all a base build. We said yesterday, when we were live, unlikely that on this hold that this would not go and break higher. We expect this to continue to break higher. It's still breaking higher, no edge. Keep in mind, triple witching, quadruple witching, no interest to play unless it's a tactical one during the day. We'll reassess next week, but clearly patiently waiting for a more interesting place to short, but have no interest in being stubborn. And as we said, as long as there's no change on talk on rates, is it just going to continue to grind higher? It'll piss a lot of people off, but the trade is just grind higher until it stops. And the important thing is to know how to position yourself intraday. No edge today. We'll look at it every single day next week as usual. What's going on? Cable, that bigger picture, remember what we said even last week. We expect it to stay choppy inside, unless there's a yes vote, we expect it to stay choppy inside this range for the week, and then we'll have to see what's going on, right? But clearly there's a time to fade the shorts and there's a time to fade the long, and right now it's still in trend, so not a lot going on. We'll have to see how it behaves around this gap zone. That's going to be interesting, but pretty decent trading this week. I think, the longs were relatively straightforward, and the short into the 65.00 was relatively straightforward, even though we've been sidelined on a while here. for a while on these. Again, gold and silver, they're just hovering at those lows. I don't think there's a lot of edge, not too much to look into. Here, what we said, again, is when we start to break lower, the first day it looked like it started to bounce. We said this is a sucker's plate to try and get long. You have to understand, you know, the context. You have to understand how it's trading around that support. That's the long discussion we had on gold, I think, yesterday or the day before. So right here, just let it settle. We'll wait for it to settle at a more extreme level. Trading below 1250, the risk is really for a correction back into the 1200s or lower. This is not cheap enough for us to buy, and this is not expensive enough for us to sell. In terms of silver, what's going on silver? Still hovering here. Again, some people are going to be trying to catch it. What we said, we'd much rather see a break below this zone. We'd like to see a lot of longs puke it up and then look for opportunities to get long after it. Another explosive or exhaustive leg to the downside, so we're still sidelined here, no real edge. AUD/JPY, again, it's playing out quite nicely. Again, those longs worked out quite nicely, even though the risk, you know, the risk reward on the full trade is pretty decent. Stops are fairly wide on that, but still, it's okay. I'd still be TP1 done here, have the open 2 TPs. Pretty much MC hammer time, the way we say. Can't get touched on this, can't end up losing. Very aggressive traders are going to stay in. Again, keep in mind you could see some volatility on JPY, especially with the G20 weekend. The percentage play is just to flatten up, reassess on Sunday, take your profits, done and dusted, no risk over the weekend. AUD, CHF, we said really you have to respect the pivotal line. You have to respect these highs. As we said, the longs off the breakout into those highs, they're done and dusted. Don't be a sucker trying to buy highs before you get the break. Only on a weekly close above this level you can try and be aggressive. If not, respect it. The odds are to see a retracement here, okay? So no real change on that. What's going on GPB, JPY? Again, we've been saying for ages, only position for us is long, looking for a break above those 175.30s, looking for this to press higher. If anything, then we'll look to get short. As we said, we had all those trails on the dailies. You could look to trail behind the daily closes, all those stops, right? When it's moving aggressively, it's fairly easy to trail. Here on this kind of action, I'd probably either just trail partial below the breakup point or just flat up and reassess next week. Again, I don't particularly want to hold too much risk on JPY over the weekend, right? Keep in mind, as usual, a lot of newer traders are going to be looking for the lottery ticket trade on Friday, take a trade with tight stop above or below whatever lows, and they hope to come back on Monday and with their lottery ticket. Very rarely works out. If it works out, winning the wrong way is still wrong. There's not a lot of edge in doing that. We likely clear stops at the opens, stay solid, stay intraday, look to hold the positions when the market is open, limit risk over the weekend. We reassess on Monday, rinse, wash, rinse, repeat, same thing as usual. Again, Euro USD on the day here, as we said, you know, as it's holding below those 130.20s, this is really heavy, right? So, but you know, we understand both dynamics of the market, right? So into those lows the other day, we said really the only trade, you know, either you're sidelined and waiting for a higher price to get short, or if you need to trade, you know, the only trade there was the long for that move back into those 29.10s, right? 29.19s. That's the only thing. You have to understand the intraday dynamics. So we get long, we're not married to the position, we understand that that's a sell point, and either you reverse or you flat out. But you know, you need to be able to be unbiased, not married to any position. Don't get mad with the Fed, don't get mad with the ECB, don't be in love with Draghi, whatever. Who cares? Just look at the chart and play the levels, right? And now today, if you're still holding those shorts, you know, we could easily see an acceleration lower today. You know, there's no reason why we can't see an acceleration back below the 28.00s. You know, is it likely going to happen? Well, you know, probably not a lot of chance that we're going to close today below 28.00, but there's clearly a possibility. So if you're still managing shorts, you know, you might want to trail some, be a bit conservative, you know, maybe look at retracements of the day moves. And we'll look at it in a second to trail, but you know, there's still an opportunity for more downside. But clearly, Euro is still trading heavy. Let's see what happens, you know, but no big change. We'll look at the 15 minutes in a second on Euro and cable. NZDJPY here, again, all those longs looking for the breakout still in play. We're still looking for ultimately that move back into 89.80s. You know, the move is quite nice. Here I'd be trailing the usual way. We look at those trails. Nice trade, you know, no big change, still in play. You know, if we start to close back below the breakout point, we could continue to see retracements back towards this 200 DMA, but at the moment it's still as long as it closes above, it's still looking pretty decent for the upside, right? USD CAD, as we said yesterday, we were interested to engage at extremes, so either at highs or at lows, and we expected, because we had the data, because of the choppy nature of what was going on, to little edge in the mid of the range. So we did not want to get chopped around. All those people trying to buy this mid-range here yesterday, especially on a close below, really not a high odds trade. Pressure on. As long as we continue holding below here, pressures for a move back to the downside. This is the pivotal level, so I'll continue to use the daily to guide bullish above, bearish below, depending on the daily closes for a move back into the extremes. And again, I have absolutely no interest unless we get to the extremes, okay? What else have we got? Then we've got USD JPY. Here, we looked at trying to be tactical here, even though we're saying, you know, we've been for years just long, swing long, swing long, swing long on yen, but that doesn't stop us for trying to be tactical on the downside, right? And what we had yesterday, we had this little trade here to try and be a bit tactical and take some out into a little move here, right? So we got a little dip here. We didn't really get into those TPs, so either you moved your stops to BE, got out flat, scratched the trade. If not, you got taken out for 18 pips. Really, it's not that big of a deal considering all the other trades that played out. And right here, it's right back into that zone. So it looks like it's struggling a bit. Again, the longer term play is really a bit of a sucker's play to try and get short for a big swing short. You know, the people looking for a swing short back into the 100 level, you know, this is most likely going to stay bid. We're looking for this to continue to rotate higher. Remember what we're looking at. We're looking at for 111s, right? That's our first target to the upside we have on the bigger move. But that doesn't mean that tactically intraday you can't look for some shorting opportunities. I don't think today there's a lot of edge. Keep in mind, a lot of people are going to start to get excited on the daily. Again, I think there's better things to do than start to hold overnight risk. You know, see that, let the daily close, reassess on Sunday night. There's really no hurry, okay? So, any comments, any questions, anything anybody wants to look at? You know, here, just quickly, if we're looking at the euro on the 15-minute today, right, we see that basically we're still holding, you know, we couldn't break below, and we're starting to hold heavy. So clearly a lot of people will be trying to sell any spike back up, right? Similar to the way we got sold here, you see pretty much in line with that first dip low that tried to hold. So you've got this whole zone in the middle. That'll likely be a sell point. You've got the move from these highs. Oops, not what I wanted to do. Moves from the highs into the lows. You're seeing this is giving you confluence with the 50 back of highs to lows. So this will likely be a sell zone. Again, I'm not too interested in being aggressive towards end of day on Friday, but you know, as long as we hold below here, price will likely continue to stay heavy. You know, we start to get traction above that zone, maybe we could see a bit of a squeeze, but everybody's been calling, waiting for the squeeze, which isn't really happening. So it's not really finding a lot of bids, but as long as we hold here, you know, those lows remain vulnerable, right? So if you're on those shorts again from those highs, you can easily look to trail any of these levels. You know, I'd probably trail above this spike high or something for now, see what happens, and reassess in an hour or so. Okay, and as far as cable, 15-minute here, you see, you know, we had that sharp failure at the 165, and now we're right back down. Keep in mind that, you know, a lot of people who don't, you know, we're trying to buy all kinds of fib retracement. This is not really, it's something that you have to look at the bigger picture. So if anything, if you're looking at a move, right, you need to look at that retracement off these lows, if anything, right? And you see that that's the area I'd probably be focused on if you're desperately looking for some kind of a base here for the week, but I still think it's a bit vulnerable today, and I wouldn't really be too interested. You know, might see some shorts covering it a little pop, but I'd expect this to still close a sub 65.00, and we could see some more pressure on here going into the end of the week. Okay, so any comments, any questions, anything we've missed out, any chart we haven't discussed, guys? We all good, ready to rock and roll, ready for the weekend? Yeah, I think it was interesting action. We had a lot of wheeling and dealing this week. Globally speaking, we were positioned quite nicely. I think we read the market quite well. We had a lot of interesting moves that we decided not to participate on. But you know, that's the whole point: understanding risk, managing your positions, understanding context, and understanding when it's time to be aggressive, when it's time to lay back a bit. You know, and that's what we do. You know, depending on the market we get, depending on the actions, we'll continue to adapt and look at different setups. So again, next week we'll start to look at some of the different things we already discussed, and let's see what happens, right? Okay, so I'll send out the recording if anybody missed it. Guys, have an awesome weekend. Thanks for flying with 50 as usual. See you guys soon. Rest up well. Have an awesome one, and see you guys on Monday. It should be an interesting